The woman who once told me I was nothing without money just walked into my office begging me for a job. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to Veil of Vengeance for more powerful stories of betrayal, revenge, and redemption. I never thought I'd see her again, not after what she did. But there she was, sitting across from me, eyes bright, hands folded, reciting lines about why she'd be perfect for the job. She didn't realize me. Not at first. She smiled like we were strangers, like I hadn't once held her hand through the toughest nights of my life, like she hadn't walked out when I lost everything. I let her finish her pitch. Every word felt like a joke. Only I understood. When she was done, I leaned forward, looked her straight in the eye, and said, "Sorry, we're looking for someone with loyalty." Then I stood up, pushed my chair in, and walked out. That moment, it was justice. But it didn't come easy. You don't just get to say something like that and walk away clean. You earn it. You crawl through hell to get to a place where your silence cuts deeper than any scream. And I'd been to hell, thanks to her. Let me take you back. 5 years ago, I was working a decent job at a marketing firm in Seattle. I wasn't rich, but I was proud of the life I was building. I paid the bills. I looked after my younger sister, Tara, while she went to college. I visited my grandmother, Esther, every weekend because she was all we had left after our parents passed away. And I loved this woman, Lila Grant. We'd been together for 2 years. She was sharp, stylish, always chasing the next big thing. I thought we were solid. I thought I was enough. Then I lost my job. The company downsized. No notice, no warning. 1 minute I was leading a campaign. The next I was turning in my badge. I came home that night with a bag of groceries and a plan to fix everything. I told Lila the truth. I'd lost my job, but I had savings. I had a plan. I just needed time. She stared at me like I'd said I was dying, like unemployment was contagious. "You're nothing," she said. "I'll find something. I've already started applying," I replied. Her lips tightened. She looked around the apartment like it wasn't enough anymore. "We can't afford this place without your income," she said. "I can cover rent for the next few months. We'll cut back. I'll do whatever it takes," I assured her. She didn't say anything right away, just turned back to her phone and scrolled like I wasn't even there. A week later, I came home from a job fair, still wearing a name tag, holding a resume folder. The apartment was empty. Her clothes, her shoes, her perfumes, all gone. There was a note on the kitchen counter. "You're a good guy, Ethan, but you're nothing without money." That sentence broke something in me. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat at the kitchen table and read that note again and again until it barely made sense. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling and wondered if she was right. Was I really nothing without a paycheck, without a title, without someone like her by my side? But here's the thing about hitting bottom. It doesn't mean you're finished. It means you've got a foundation to build on. That moment, her walking out, that note, her words, they started something in me, something cold and determined. I was going to rise, not for revenge, not for pride, but for myself, for Tara, for Esther, for every part of me that still believed I was worth something, even when I had nothing. Fast forward 5 years, I built something from the ashes she left behind. And when I saw her walk through that door, resume in hand, completely unaware of the man she left behind, I realized I had already won. But I still gave her something to remember me by. "Sorry, we're looking for someone with loyalty." Then I left her there, sitting in silence. That was the beginning of the end, or maybe the end of the beginning. Let me tell you everything that happened in between. Back then, my life wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I had a steady job, a small apartment on the east side of Seattle, and a routine I'd worked hard to create. I woke up early, brewed the same strong cup of coffee every morning, and hit the office by 8. I worked as a brand strategist at a mid-sized marketing firm. It wasn't my dream job, but I liked it. I was good at it. Clients knew my name. My boss relied on me, and I was climbing, slowly, but climbing. My days were packed. Work, side gigs, errands, and check-ins with my little sister, Tara. She was 23, working part-time at a bookstore while finishing her last year at the university. Our parents died 5 years ago in a car crash. I was 23 when I became Tara's legal guardian. I had no time to grieve. I had to be the adult. I had to keep us going. So I worked. And when I wasn't working, I visited Grandma Esther. She was old school, retired nurse, still wore her silver bracelet from her hospital days, even though her arthritis made it hard to cook anymore. Every Sunday, I drove out to her house with groceries. We'd watch old detective shows, drink iced tea, and talk about real things. She didn't say much, but when she did, you listened. She believed in grit, in earning your place in the world with your hands, not your wallet. Then there was Lila. She was the fire in my calm life. The type who turned heads the second she walked into a room. She worked in fashion PR, always dressed sharp, always planning her next move. She loved rooftop bars, weekend getaways, tasting menus, and expensive perfume. She made me feel like I was chasing something bigger, like I could be more than the guy behind the desk. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party. She liked how quiet I was, how grounded I seemed. I liked how alive she made me feel. I took her to diners and clubs, hole-in-the-wall spots on Fridays, and eventually home to meet Tara. She laughed at our old couch and said it had character. She made jokes about how I needed better suits. I didn't mind. I thought she loved me, not the lifestyle. For 2 years, we built a rhythm. I paid for date nights, surprised her with flowers on Fridays, even picked up extra work building websites on weekends just so I could afford our occasional trips. I never said it out loud, but I was saving up for a ring. I wanted to propose once I felt truly secure, once I knew I could give her everything she wanted. We talked about the future sometimes. In those sleepy moments after midnight, when her makeup was off and the city lights flickered through the window blinds, she'd whisper, "Promise me we'll never be poor." I'd smile, kiss her forehead and say, "I promise we'll always have each other." She'd nod, eyes closed, and say, "That's sweet, but I mean it. I don't ever want to go backward." There was something in her tone that unsettled me, but I brushed it off. I thought love was enough. I thought stability was enough. Then one Thursday afternoon, everything shifted. I was called into a meeting I didn't see coming. My supervisor, Mark, looked more nervous than I did. He said the company was restructuring, budgets were being cut, clients were pulling out. My position and 2 others were eliminated, effective immediately. No notice, no severance. Just a box to pack my things and a polite handshake on the way out. I remember walking out into the cold air, stunned. It felt like I'd been hit by a truck, but no one else on the sidewalk seemed to notice. People rushed past me like it was any other day. I stood there, holding a cardboard box with a framed photo of Tara and me from our first Thanksgiving without our parents. That picture was supposed to remind me how far we'd come. Now it just felt like proof I'd failed. I took the train home and spent the ride scrolling through job boards, already applying. I didn't want to waste time. I wasn't going to let this destroy me. I was scared, but I had some savings. I could pivot. That night, I made dinner, pasta and garlic bread, cheap but warm. When Lila walked through the door, I told her everything. My voice steady, tried to sound confident. "I lost my job," I said, "but I'll figure it out. I've already started applying. We might have to cut back for a while, but I promise I'll keep us on track." She didn't say anything for a full minute, just sat down at the table, folded her arms, and stared at me. "How long is a while?" she asked. "I don't know yet. Hopefully not long," I replied. She didn't touch her food. Then she said, "I didn't sign up for struggle, Ethan." That sentence hit harder than the layoff. It was like everything we'd built meant nothing if it wasn't wrapped in money. I tried to reason with her. "Lila, I'm not giving up. I just need some time." She looked at me like she didn't recognize me anymore. "You're a good man," she said, "but love can't pay rent." And that was the beginning of the end. I just didn't know how quickly the end would come. That night, after she said, "Love can't pay rent," I stayed silent. I stared at the food I'd cooked, now getting cold between us. Lila stood up, walked into the bedroom, and shut the door behind her without another word. I slept on the couch, not because she asked me to, but because I couldn't bear to lie next to someone who looked at me like I was a burden. The next few days, I tried everything to prove I was still the man she believed in. I sent out over 40 job applications. I reached out to old coworkers, called in a favor from a college buddy who worked at a tech firm. I hustled. I picked up small freelance gigs, logo designs, copywriting projects, anything that would bring in even a little income. I made enough to cover groceries and utilities. It wasn't a lot, but it was something. I wanted to show her I wasn't giving up, that I wasn't going to let this layoff define me. I thought maybe if she saw me trying, she'd stay. She didn't need to carry anything. She just had to hold the line with me until I got back on my feet. But she had already checked out. She stopped coming home on time. When she did come home, she barely said more than a few words. No more laughing. No more late-night TV. No more spontaneous dancing in the kitchen while we cooked dinner. It all disappeared like it had never existed. One night, I asked her gently, "Are we okay?" She didn't even look up from her phone. "I don't know," she said. "Are we?" I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake her and say, "I'm still here. I'm still me." But I didn't. I just sat there and nodded, pretending I wasn't watching everything crumble. The following Saturday, I went to a job fair. It was raining, and I wore the only decent suit I had left, the one she used to call my hustle uniform. I spent 6 hours handing out resumes, shaking hands, smiling through rejection. I came home tired, soaked, and still hopeful. But the apartment was quiet. Too quiet. At first, I thought she was out running errands. Then I noticed the closet door in the hallway slightly ajar. I walked over and opened it. Half the hangers were empty. The shelf where she kept her heels was bare. Her toiletries were gone from the bathroom counter. I walked into the bedroom, and the top drawer of her dresser was open and empty. That's when I saw it on the kitchen counter. A folded piece of paper torn from a notebook with my name written at the top in her handwriting. I picked it up and read it twice before the words made sense. "Ethan, I'm sorry, but this isn't the life I want. I can't wait around hoping things will get better. You're a good guy, but you're nothing without money. I hope you understand, Lila." I stood there holding that note, hands shaking, unable to move. "You're nothing without money." That sentence echoed in my head like a gunshot. It didn't matter that I'd sacrificed sleep to keep us afloat. It didn't matter that I loved her with everything I had. It didn't even matter that I was still fighting. All she saw when she looked at me was a paycheck that wasn't there anymore. I sat on the floor, leaned against the cabinets, and gripped the note like it was proof I wasn't imagining the whole thing. Tara came home that night and found me still sitting there. She dropped her backpack and rushed over. "What happened?" "She's gone," I said, holding up the note. She read it, then clenched her jaw. "What kind of person says that to someone like you?" I shook my head. I didn't have an answer. I didn't have anything. The next morning, I packed her remaining things into a box and put it in the hallway. I didn't cry. I didn't beg her to come back. I just shut the door behind me and stood in the silence. Over the next week, I kept waking up, hoping it was a nightmare. I'd look toward the bedroom, half expecting to see her there, brushing her hair, humming a song she had stuck in her head. But she was never there. She wasn't just gone. She'd taken something from me, something bigger than love. She took the version of me that believed loyalty was enough, that love was unconditional, that people stayed when life got hard, and she replaced it with the truth. Some people are only with you when you're winning. When you lose, they leave. That was the hardest part, realizing that what I thought was love was actually just convenience. But something happened in that pain. In the wreckage of my relationship, I felt something wake up inside me. Not revenge, not bitterness, resolve. I wasn't going to let that note be the final word on my life. I was going to rise. I didn't know how yet, but I knew I would. After Lila left, I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff. Everything stable had been pulled from under me. My job was gone. The woman I thought would be my future had walked out with the note. My pride was shattered. I could have stayed there, bitter, broken, replaying her words in my head, but something inside me refused to die there. I gave myself 1 week, to feel it all. I didn't pretend to be okay. I let it hurt. I let myself be angry. I let myself feel stupid. I needed that. Then I made a choice. I would not let that version of my life be the final one. I sat down at the kitchen table with a notebook and started planning. Not dreaming, not wishing, planning. I made a list of every skill I had: marketing strategy, client presentations, copywriting, web design, social media management. I also made a second list: skills I wanted to learn: coding, data analytics, product development, business leadership. I didn't know exactly what career path I'd take, but I was going to build it from scratch. My first step was signing up for free online coding courses. I couldn't afford fancy boot camps or private coaching, so I taught myself HTML, CSS, and JavaScript late into the night. During the day, I worked at a local gas station to pay bills. I stocked shelves, cleaned bathrooms, and kept my headphones in during every break so I could keep learning. Tara offered to drop out of school and work full-time to help me. I told her absolutely not. This isn't the end of us, I told her. It's just a new beginning. She believed me, even when I wasn't sure I believed myself. Grandma Esther kept calling every Sunday. "You all right, son?" she'd ask. "I'm getting there," I'd say. "You don't have to run. Just keep walking. Long as you don't stop, you'll make it." Her words stayed with me, especially on the nights when I thought I wasn't good enough, when job applications went unanswered, when I saw people who used to envy me now look at me with pity. But I kept walking. After 6 months of self-study and freelancing, I built a small portfolio of websites and branding projects. I applied to every junior developer job I could find, often competing with college grads and boot camp alumni who had better credentials. I knew my biggest advantage was my story. I didn't pretend to be the smartest guy in the room. I was the hungriest. Finally, I got an interview with a rising startup called Nexus Solutions. It was a long shot, but I gave everything I had. I told the hiring manager my story, not the sob story, but the rebuild. I showed him the freelance projects I'd done on a shoestring budget. I told him I didn't just want a job. I wanted a career, a shot to prove I could create something meaningful. He called me a week later and said, "You're not the most experienced candidate, but you're the one I believe in most. Let's see what you can do." That phone call changed my life. At Nexus, I started as a junior developer. I showed up early. I stayed late. I asked questions no one else bothered to ask. I volunteered for things outside my scope. I studied our competitors. I learned our product inside and out. In my first year, I helped design a feature that increased user engagement by 30%. In year 2, I transitioned to the product team and led a launch that broke our monthly revenue record. By year 3, I was leading strategy for our expansion into new markets. I earned the respect of our leadership team, not because I asked for it, but because I worked for it. I moved out of that old apartment and bought a 2-bedroom condo overlooking the city. I paid off the rest of Grandma Esther's mortgage. I took Tara on a trip to Oregon to celebrate her graduation. I stopped feeling like I was proving something to Lila. I wasn't chasing revenge anymore. I was building peace. The scars were still there. Some days, I still felt the echo of that note, her words, her silence. But over time, I realized something important. She didn't break me. She revealed me. She forced me to confront who I was when nothing was guaranteed. One night, Tara and I were having dinner at my place. She looked around the apartment and said, "Man, you really did it." I laughed. "Did what?" "Everything. You started over. You made it work. I don't think I could have done what you did." I leaned back in my chair and looked at her. "You could have. You would have, because it's not about talent, it's about choice. I just chose not to stay where I was left." That was the truth. I wasn't the most talented. I wasn't the most connected. But I made a choice to rebuild every single day. And then, one Monday morning, just after we wrapped up a major product launch, something unexpected happened. I received a list of candidates for a new marketing position we were hiring for. One name on that list stopped me cold: Lila Grant. 5 years had passed, but fate wasn't done writing our story. Monday morning started like any other. I had just wrapped up a product launch the previous week and was catching up on hiring updates for our expanding marketing division. My assistant dropped a folder on my desk with profiles of 5 top candidates we were bringing in for interviews. I wasn't scheduled to attend them. Usually the department leads handled that, and I trusted them. But something told me to skim the list anyway. The 4th name stopped me cold. Lila Grant. Same spelling, same hometown, same LinkedIn photo. I stared at it for a long minute. My pulse didn't spike. My stomach didn't drop. I just felt still. After all these years, after everything that had happened, she was sitting in my candidate pool. I checked her resume. She had bounced around a few mid-tier agencies. Nothing particularly impressive. Her last position had ended abruptly. No explanation. There was a time I would have imagined her running a luxury PR firm or married into a high-profile family. Instead, she was applying for a mid-level position at the company I helped build from the ground up. I asked my assistant to slide me into the interview schedule. No explanation, just a quiet request. When she walked into the conference room that afternoon, I was already seated at the far end of the long glass table. She walked in confidently, holding a leather folder, heels clicking with purpose. Her hair was styled neatly, and she wore a polished black blazer. She glanced at me briefly, gave a polite nod, then turned her attention to the hiring manager sitting across from her. She didn't recognize me. I watched her talk. Her voice was calm, measured, professional. She spoke about her experience, her growth, her passion for brand storytelling. She said she was looking for a place where she could plant roots, bring stability to her life, and be part of something meaningful. She used words like commitment, dedication, and loyalty. That one hit me hardest. I listened carefully, not out of spite, not to humiliate her. I just needed to understand. Who was this version of her? Was she truly different, or just saying what she thought we wanted to hear? Halfway through the interview, the hiring manager asked if I had any questions. Lila turned to look at me again, this time a little longer. Actually, I said, folding my hands calmly on the table. I do. Her eyes squinted slightly. Something shifted in her expression. Lila, I said, do you remember me? There was a pause. Not long, but enough to stretch the space between us. She tilted her head. I'm sorry. Should I? I'm Ethan Carter. I didn't say it with anger. I didn't say it with pride. I said it like a man who no longer needed to be remembered, to feel whole. Her face drained of color. The confident posture softened into something unsure. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. I waited. I didn't realize. You look so different, she said. I suppose I am, I replied. Silence settled into the room. The hiring manager looked between us, confused but respectful enough to stay quiet. I gave Lila one last look. Not to hurt her, not to make a scene, just to be honest. When I lost my job 5 years ago, you left without saying a word to my face. You left a note that said I was nothing without money. She didn't deny it. She couldn't. I stood up. I built this company during the years after that. I worked my way from the bottom with no one but my sister and my grandmother standing by me. I never asked for much, just loyalty. Her eyes welled up. She opened her mouth again, maybe to explain, maybe to apologize. I didn't need either. I looked at the hiring manager, then back at her. Thank you for coming in, Lila, I said, but we're looking for someone with loyalty. I straightened my jacket, gave the hiring manager a small nod, and walked out. No dramatics, no raised voices, just truth. I walked down the hallway, my steps steady. My phone buzzed with notifications, emails, meeting invites, progress reports. Life kept moving, but for the first time in years, I felt free from the shadow of that note she left me. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't about payback. It was closure. When I got back to my office, Tara had left a sticky note on my desk with a joke about the office coffee machine. I smiled. Across the room, I saw my team, people I had helped mentor, people who believed in what we were building. Lila's presence no longer loomed over me. It didn't matter whether she regretted her decision. What mattered was that I had risen on my own terms. That moment in the interview room didn't rewrite the past, but it reminded me how far I'd come. And I didn't need her to remember me. I remembered who I was now. When I walked out of that interview room, I wasn't angry. I wasn't proud or smug or vindicated. I was clear. For the first time in years, I felt like I'd finally let go of everything that used to keep me tied to the past. Seeing Lila again didn't bring the reaction I thought it might. I didn't feel the weight of heartbreak anymore. There was no ache in my chest, no heat behind my eyes, just a calm understanding that she had played her part in my story, and that part was over. That night, I went home and sat out on my balcony. The city lights shimmered like they always do, and the hum of traffic below sounded more like progress than chaos. I sipped a glass of water, not wine, because I didn't need to celebrate. I just needed to feel the moment, and I did. I thought about the man I used to be, the one who would have done anything to make Lila stay, the one who measured his value and how much he could provide for someone else, even if it meant emptying himself in the process. That man was gone. In his place stood someone who had built a life with purpose, grit, and people who stayed through the hard days. People who didn't care about status or money. People who believed in me before I became the person I am now. Tara and I still have dinner every week. She brings over groceries, even though I tell her not to. She still calls me big bro like we're kids. And I let her, because she's one of the few who stuck it out when everything fell apart. She doesn't talk much about Lila, but I know what she thought of her after she left. She never said, "I told you so." And I respect her for that. Then there's Grandma Esther. She's slower now and walks with a cane, but her mind is sharp. Every Sunday, I still drive out to her place with groceries and spend the afternoon listening to her stories. She looked at me recently and said, "You carry yourself differently now." I asked her what she meant. You used to walk like you were waiting for something to fall apart. Now you walk like a man who's already survived the fall. She was right. I stopped waiting for the rug to be pulled out from under me. I stopped needing people's approval to feel whole. I stopped chasing things that didn't matter. I'm not rich in the way Lila once dreamed about. I don't own a yacht or fly private, but I have a team of brilliant people who trust me, a sister who's proud of me, and a woman who loves me for who I am. Her name is Nora. We met at a product conference in Portland. She was speaking on a panel about ethical tech practices, and I was instantly drawn to her energy. Not flashy, not loud, just present. She asked questions that mattered. She listened more than she talked. Over time, we built something honest. She saw me at my most tired, during late nights when a campaign crashed, and she didn't flinch. She didn't need me to impress her. She needed me to show up. And I did. When I told her the story about Lila, she didn't laugh or gloat or say, "That's what she gets." She looked at me and said, "You didn't walk away to hurt her. You walked away to protect who you became." She understood the difference between revenge and closure. That's when I knew she was different. That's when I knew she was it. So what did I learn? I learned that loyalty is priceless. It's not something you demand. It's something you notice when everything else disappears, when your job is gone, when your confidence is cracked, when the money dries up and all that's left is who you are at your core. That's when real loyalty shows up. And I learned that losing someone isn't always a loss. Sometimes it's a release, a necessary ending that clears the way for better things, stronger connections, truer love. People ask me if I ever heard from Lila again. The answer is no. She didn't follow up after the interview, didn't send an email, and didn't ask for another chance. And I'm glad she didn't, because I wouldn't have answered, not out of spite, but out of peace. My story didn't end when she left. It began. So if you're in that place now, broken, left behind, wondering if you'll ever feel whole again, listen closely. You are not nothing. You are being remade. Don't waste your energy chasing the people who couldn't handle your worst. Use it to become the kind of person who attracts the best. You don't have to become cold to be strong. You just have to stop watering dead plants. You have to believe that the right people don't walk away when things get hard. They stay. They fight. They grow with you. And one day, when you're sitting in a room that you built with your own hands, and someone from your past walks in expecting the old version of you, you'll have the strength to smile and say, "Sorry, We're looking for someone with loyalty. Then you'll walk away, and you won't look back. If you're in that place now, broken, left behind, wondering if you'll ever feel whole again, I hope this story reminded you of what you're truly capable of. You're not defined by what you lost. You're defined by how you rise after losing it. Loyalty, real love, and self-respect are worth more than any paycheck, title, or temporary approval. Fire, thanks for listening. Sparkling hard if this story moved you. Share it with someone who needs it. Drop a comment with the part that hit you most. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories.